Okay, even though we don't have many users to return when we do this, what we'll still do is add pagination to this. As we saw when I made the little error in the service, we return all of the users if we don't specify pagination. So there's nothing to stop a user overriding what we've done here to get everything back. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at pagination. And where should we begin? Well, let's begin with our user params, because that's where we set up the pagination for our users. And if we take a look at the user params, then we would like to use lists also for our likes entity. And what we can do is we can create a new class that's going to store this information, and then for any other class that needs pagination, it can inherit from that class. And what we'll do is inside our helpers, we'll create a new class and we'll call it pagination params and press return. And what we'll do is we'll simply cut all of this and we'll stick it inside our pagination params. And then we can go back to our user params and we can derive from the pagination params. And now our users are back to how they were before, but we can use this for our likes params as well. So what we'll do is we'll create another class inside helpers and we'll say likes params because we want to add pagination, and we'll inherit from pagination params. And what we also need in here for this is what we're doing inside our likes controller. So let's take a look at what we need. What else do we need, and what are we taking from the parameters? So we're getting the predicates from the query string, and we also need the user ID as well. So what we'll do is we'll add these two properties inside our likes param, and we'll add a property of int for the user ID, and we'll add a property of string for the predicates we're using. And then what we'll do, we'll head over to our iLikes repository. And what we want to do, instead of returning the IEnumerable here, we want to return the paged list. So we'll say paged list inside here, and we'll need to bring this in from API helpers. And instead of passing the string and ID, what we'll do is we'll say likes params and say likes params that we're passing in to this particular method. So let's go to our likes repository, the implementation class, and we're going to need to configure this to paginate the responses. So what we're returning from this now is a paged list of like DTO, and we'll bring in using API helpers. And what we need to return from this now is that paged list, and we also create the instance of that class at the same time. So what we'll do is we're not going to be awaiting this, and we'll say var liked users equals, and we'll say users.select, and we'll remove the toList async, and that removes all of the errors. And now we just need to return a paged list from this. So what we'll do is we'll say return await, and we'll say paged list of type like DTO, and then we'll say create async, and our source in this case is going to be the liked users, which is an iQueryable of the liked DTO. So we'll pass in liked users, and then what we need is our page number, and what we need in this method is instead of the string and the int, we need to add our likes params, and we'll just call them likes params. And now we need to update everything in here as well. So we'll say likes params dot predicates, and then we can say likes params dot user ID, and we'll do the same for the other method here. So we'll just overwrite predicate with that, and we'll do the same for the user ID as well. And make sure we've got no other errors in here, and then we just need to update this, and we'll now have access to the likes params.page number and the likes params dot page size. And let's move this down. So this is what we return now from this method. And this all looks good. We're returning a page list. We create the page list instance. We've updated our params. And now we can go across to our controller. And inside here, what we're going to do is, of course, update this. So what we need to do inside here, instead of just getting the predicate now, we're going to need to pass in the likes params. And we'll say likes params. And just in case, well, what we need to do is bring in our API helpers. And because we needed to do this before, I'm going to do it again and say from query. And then what we need to do is pass our likes params to our likes repository. But let's just set the ID first of all. So we'll say likes params dot user ID is equal to user dot get user ID. And then we can just pass across our likes params. And then what we can do, because we're going to get a paginated response back from this now, or a page list, we're going to have access to the current page, total pages, etc. information inside the user. So what we can do is we can say response, and we can say add pagination header, and then we can say users.currentPage, and then the users.items per page, or page size, and then we need the total items, so users.total count, and then we need the users.total pages. And just make sure that yours matches the information that you're expecting in that pagination header. And with this in place, what we can do is we can go to Postman and we can test. So what I'll do is, who am I logged in as? Let's just log in as Lisa again. And we'll go and get the liked users and click on send. And there's more of them now. And what we want to see is inside the headers, we want to see our pagination response, and we see it here. We've got our total items of 3, total pages 1, items per page is 10, and that looks good. That's what we're looking for here. So now we have this in place on the API, we'll just go and configure this on our client.